Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. I've got Josh Yohe with The Athletic alongside and comedian Joe Bartnick, who you can see him at the Pittsburgh Improv in, I believe, 11 days. That'll be July 10th. So you'll have plenty of free agency news to talk with him, and also up in the Boston Comedy Studio on August 23rd. But we had a draft. And then also free agency is we're 21 hours away from Brian Rust no longer being protected by his no movement clause. Joe,
Corey,
so how are you feeling?
Hello, fellas. Hello, fans. Hello, everybody. Happy free agency period. I will let Josh speak upon the draft. Let Josh say his piece because I have a lot to say, and thank God I've had a couple days to unwind.
Oh boy. It means he's coiled up and ready to pounce.
Sounds that way. Well, do we want to start with the draft, Corey?
Yeah. Well, no, I just wanted to, I wasn't trying to get Joe riled up, but like all I keep thinking of is I'm like, there's 48 hours left in the no movement clause. Now there's 24. Now there's 21.
All right. Well, I'll jump right into it. Yeah. I thought Richard Nixon had a better draft than the Pittsburgh Penguins.
That's what I was.
I've sat through 40 freaking years of Penguins hockey. I sat through 8-0 against Winnipeg. I've never left early. I sat through the Kelly Bucherberger as the captain era. I've sat through everything. And that 2 hours on Friday night was the worst 2 hours. I had to shut the TV off. First of all, we have Barkley welcoming Tocchet to Philly. Then they take Porter, the guy who won. The only blessing was he looked up to Claude Giroux. Well, now I don't want you. I'm glad I didn't find that out when you were a Penguin because I would have puked. Second, we don't get Karlsson. The one time I've been a fan for 50 years, we've never had a number one defenseman that kicked ass. Sorry, Christopher. I had to see him announce a midget. The tank kid was bigger than the kid we drafted. Everybody else is on steroids. We get a kid that he can't even ride the big rides that Kenny would. And then we trade away the next pick and Kishon. The Philly got the one guy who wanted, and then the other dirtbag franchise that always killed us, the Islanders, got the next guy. We got 15 guys, and none of them I heard of and any good. Okay, I'm done. That's my piece.
Okay, so that
blood pressure medicine, Joe. Now, I will say this, Joe. I think what happened, Joe may have ignored day two because he was so pissed about day one. Because every single guy they took in day two was like 6'5", 6'6", 6'4". So that they did get a lot of very large, tough human beings in the subsequent picks. Obviously, with their first pick, with Benjamin Kindle, they went off the board. And there was like... That was the first real shocker of the draft. Everyone you could kind of hear the gasp in the Penguins where all the media people are saying like, "What?" And Kendall. I'll make it very clear what happened. Wes Clark is the draft guru for the Penguins. He really runs the draft. I know Kyle has the final say, but he trusts Wes Clark completely with his draft. And Wes Clark was in love with this kid. He just was. The Penguins had him as a top 10 player in the draft. That they very much went by their board. That's who they had. I understand a lot of people weren't very happy about it. I get it. But I will say for the rest of the draft, they drafted a bunch of big, tough guys in the second and third and fourth rounds. So I think that was the theme. It's just interesting that the first kid they took did not fit in with the theme, which, it was a curveball. There's no other way to look at it.
And who saw them trading the 12th pick? I thought this was going to be a nice, there's not a ton of, top tier draft picks, but hey, at least we got 11 and 12. You're going to hit with one of them. I like having 3 first round picks. Don't get me wrong, but Joe, did it help you at all to see the big guys come in later?
I'm gonna say it took me 2 days to cool down. I like the second guy we drafted. I think he's kind of what we need, kind of a rough and tumble kid, can play center, can play forward. Goes to the paint. I liked him. He's happy to be a Penguin. I like Horkoff. He went to Michigan. He's a big center. I like that. After I exploded when I saw that we took first, and then Horkoff was not Horkoff, and then Keyshawn went to the Islanders. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Okay, So after I lived through that, I took a deep breath. I liked the second guy we took. I liked the third guy we took. After that, yeah, we got tough defensemen. We got all of our forwards were under 6 foot. We need guys to forecheck. We're gonna get pushed around. I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was.
It was strange. I would have lost a lot of money if I were betting on how the draft was going to go. I certainly didn't expect them to trade down, even though Kyle does have a history of doing that. And he admitted that he tried to trade up. Everybody was trying to trade up. But for the most part, there were only 7 or 8 players that everyone in this draft really wanted, and none of those teams were willing to move back down. The packages they received simply weren't good enough. In some ways, we saw good business from him. Like, to trade down to 31, then to give up 31 and 59 to move all the way back up to 24. Like, as the math goes, that was really good business. And the trade he made with Buffalo, like, to give up Connor Timmins and a crap prospect and to get an okay defenseman, and more importantly, like the 34th pick in the draft. I couldn't believe Buffalo gave up a high second-round pick for that. That was bizarre. So he did stuff like that. Just, we like to call that asset management, right? You're very good. You end up getting 13 draft picks and 4 in the first 34 picks, I think it was. So that's good. Listen, I'm not a draft expert. I'm not a prospects writer. So I could tell you, well, that was a good draft or that was a bad draft. But the truth is, most of us, I'm going to include myself in this, I don't know much about these kids other than what I read in the mock drafts and with the prospect writers, right? So when we see the mock drafts going one way and then the Penguins take a guy who's 8 slots lower in most of the mock drafts, I think a lot of people say, oh, that's a shitty draft. That was dumb. Who knows? Like Wes Clark and Kyle Dubas get paid what they get paid to identify who the best players are. Maybe the kid's a star. I don't know. But it certainly was outside the box from what we were expecting. And we're seeing that with Dubas and this administration. They're doing things. They're either going to look like geniuses or dopes in about 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3.
There's no middle ground, I don't think, right?
We have 5 to 7 years. We can all relax. We can, take the next 5 years off, the 5-year plan, because everybody's 19 and 6, and everyone weighs 135 pounds. I'm glad Connor Sheary got released. He can come join the Penguins. It'd be perfect. They can all go to Kitty Land together. I'll tell you something. We can't even sign 13 guys because then there's like a 40-man roster. I went into Friday night even saying, hey, if we got to lose Raquel and package 9 guys to move up and get a top 5 guy, let's do it. Because Josh, it's like, who wins playoff series, who wins like divisions, top 5 picks.
Oh,
superstars do. Guys are like, oh, this guy.
It's true.
Not a bunch of, oh yeah, he's not a bunch of middle 6 guys.
Yeah.
I wrote about that the other day. Actually, I looked at Florida's roster. Said, you want to talk about that? I know that's Florida, but if you want to shoot to the top, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Look at their roster. Ekblad 1st overall, Barkov 2nd overall, Kachuk I think was 6th overall or what. They have all these high lottery picks, and then you make trades. Yeah, there you go. So no, it's true. That is undeniable, Joe. And I am fascinated really by this whole time period for the Penguins. And people have talked about this, for a couple of weeks now. And I know just from people I've spoken with, the Penguins, it's been said by many, are the one team that's not really trying to make itself better for this season. Like, they're still willing to sell. Nobody else is. Even the crap teams in the league, like the Blackhawks and the Sharks, like, they're looking to be aggressive this summer to make a move. You could make an argument the Penguins have leverage. Like, if you're really the only team that's willing to sell and everybody wants to spend like crazy, that could put them in an advantageous position in terms of what they can get out of deals. It gives them some leverage, I suppose. But it probably doesn't make you feel too great about the upcoming 25-26 season. Like, I just, from everything I hear, Kyle's going to sign a couple of people tomorrow. I don't know that these will be impactful hockey players.
I think they're playing in Cranberry right now in a beer league. That's who's going to sign tomorrow. He's like, hey, that guy looks all right.
Yeah, they're not exactly on the Mitch Marner sweepstakes, which I know Joe likes. But it's just a weird place they're in. It just doesn't feel like they're in a place where anyone else is in the league right now. And they've got money to spend. They've got $20 million under the cap to spend. They'll spend some of it. But you just don't get the feeling there's any urgency for them to be good this upcoming season. And I don't think they will be.
I'm not sold on Connor Clifton. I watched a lot of Boston Bruin games. I thought he was pretty good. Then he went to Buffalo and he stunk. I think there's more upside on Timmins.
I know I have some sources in the Buffalo area that have told me that Lindy Ruff was no fan. He drove Lindy Ruff absolutely nuts. He didn't
The
think
great Lindy Ruff, I might add.
Didn't like him at all. But again, the Penguins didn't make that trade for him. Yeah, they have him for a year. They made that trade because they got a high second-round pick. That's the same thing with the Kevin Hayes trade. They didn't give a shit about Kevin Hayes. They got a second-round pick to take him. And they just think it's more valuable to get those kinds of picks. I get it. I do. But in the short term, it's not really going to help you.
Yeah.
That's really damning. If you're following the footsteps of Kevin Hayes. Wow.
Well,
Yes, it is.
I was really surprised, as Joe, was saying, hoping that they would do, is not packaging the 11th and 12th to move up to somebody who didn't value it, but maybe did. I don't know what the chatter was around the league, Josh. Were teams actually valuing those top 5 picks more than we seem to allude to? Because for months it's been, this draft is nothing compared to next year.
Right. Well, no, we asked Dubas about it, and he was pretty honest about it. He said that he tried to move up, but if he was going to move up at all, he was going to lose 11 and 12. It's not like he could, take 11 and throw in a second and a third and a player and move up. It wasn't like that. He said that if I was going to move up in the draft, we were only coming out of this night with 1 player in the first round. And they determined that it was more valuable, that it worked out that they could get 3 in the top 24. They just thought that was the best thing they could do moving forward, as opposed to kind of selling the farm to move up for one of those real marquee players. I can see the wisdom in that. Who knows? Now, if Porter Martone ends up being, Corey Perry, then it's not going to look so good, maybe. But that was the thinking, that those teams in the 7 and 8 slots, whatever, they just had so much leverage, so much power, because they knew that this draft, there was a steep fall off after the first few players. So it's not like it was a secret to them. And I think that's probably what happened more than anything else. He tried. I know he tried to move up, but it just, to him, it wasn't worth it to, basically sell the whole draft to do it.
Well, what does it say, though, that, Martone was maybe in the, a cut below the first level of guys, but Philly took him? That goes to show that he's that type of guy that we need.
Rick Tocchet kind of guy.
I mean, like I said, the Giroux thing made me sick, and then I'm like, okay, well, good. But still, the fact that Tocchet says, I want that guy on my team.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, why wouldn't Tocchet want a power forward like that? It makes perfect sense.
Like I was saying on DVE, he's half Tom Wilson, half a Chuck brother. This is exactly what we need.
Yeah, no, of course it was. We all knew that. And, listen.
But I think even more disgusting was he had a chance to get the Kashawn kid. And now, in my lifetime, sorry, Christopher, we've never had a defenseman that could kick somebody's ass, that would fight and score. Never. We haven't. Our Norris Trophy guy wasn't that guy.
I mean, you're not wrong.
He would have been a superstar. He would have been a superstar in Pittsburgh.
And all the while, I kept thinking back, the Penguins had like a top 6 pick right until they went on their hot streak at the end of the year. It cost them a few slots. They got really unlucky the night of the draft lottery when the Islanders jumped up and got the 1 pick. That knocked the Penguins down a peg. Everything that could have hurt their draft position this year happened. Of all things, a Tristan Jarry hot streak literally took them from like the 6th pick to the 11th pick. Think about that. Nobody really expected that to be the case. But that's the way it is. And you never know with drafts. You don't. It's not quite a sure thing the way maybe the NFL draft is. Not that it's a sure thing either. But I think ultimately they decided it's not a great draft. We might be better off going quantity over quality, because if you go for quality and you miss on the one guy, your whole draft is screwed. I get that. But I also understand that it's a frustrating thing for the fan base. People want to win, and it's probably going to be a while. And before I forget, was that not some of the most horseshit television you've ever seen in your life? That entire broadcast was embarrassing. I mean, not just ESPN. I mean, just the whole concept that the NHL went with. I'm sure they're never going to do that again. Like the first thing Kyle Dubas said when he walked out to talk with us afterwards, he goes, "God, my phone was blowing up. People telling me we can never do the draft this way again." I was like, "Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing."
I will say though, the talent on the talent, the ESPN crew, Emily Kaplan, I love, the blonde lady, she knew her stuff. But of course, Leah Hackstall, the special needs Leah Hackstall, the worst person ever. Even my mom hated her watching that telecast.
I know. When you texted Ange wasn't happy, I was like, oh God.
Bucci took some heat too for the Matthew Schaefer questioning about his mom recently. God. It was a little uncomfortable.
How did he phrase it? He phrased it like, what is it about not having your mom here or something that like it was just like
he's a 17-year-old kid that was kept off.
With all due respect to Steubenville's Bucci, is Levy always on vacation when they need him?
Yeah, he would have been good at that, actually.
He'd have been the best. Where is Steve Levy when you need him? Put out the bat signal.
It's a good question. Yeah, but ESPN had no chance though because the whole format sucks so bad. Like, what can you do when people's internet's freezing? And it's just a bad idea. And Gary Bettman never wanted the draft to be like this. This was the owners, the GMs, to save money, whatever. And I promise you, we're all going to be there in person next summer, wherever the draft is, because
they learned their lesson.
It just because the NFL does it that way doesn't, the NFL, you can't really compare with anything else. It's the NFL.
No, I liked your colleague, well, I guess he's your colleague, but former coworker Seth Rohrabaugh, I think, was the one that said they're going into the confessional to talk to their new bosses. It was just like this little. I was like, "What is happening?" And you could tell everybody was uncomfortable. Like, did you ever do something in your life where, like, the moment you got out there, like Joe, for you, it might be like a scenario where you're like, "Oh, this joke's gonna kill." And then you start telling it and you're like, you know what? I got to pull the ripcord on this. Like, that's the feeling I got from everyone in front of the camera. They were like, this isn't going well.
No, I thought everyone did a pretty good job. It did. I mean, of course, I only lasted, after my pick 17, and I was either going to throw my iPhone through the television or I was going to just walk outside and have a beer. But I hate to harp on this, but how does Leah Hextall have a job? Like, why didn't have Emily do that job and have the blonde chick with Bucci in Weeks or whatever? Like, why does she have to sit there?
I don't know.
She is utterly terrible. My mother goes, I can't understand her.
That was Megan Chaika, by the way. It was actually really good. She does a lot of analytic stuff. I thought she
knew her stuff. She crushed it.
She brought something to the broadcast for sure. She was good. I don't know. Maybe we could have Kevin Weeks on spreading rumors about Sidney Crosby for the whole show. Maybe that's what they'll do moving forward. Oh, that already did happen, but
yeah,
we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, but like I said, they had no chance either because it was like, in the pace of the draft, like I literally thought I was going to fall asleep at some point. It was just painful television. Like drafts in and of themselves aren't really entertaining, even though people have vested interest. But like, I think it was Alan Walsh, the always entertaining agent of Marc-Andre Fleury, who tweeted, by the way, the NBA first round took 2 hours. And the NHL took like 5. It was really classic NHL. They don't know how to do television. They have
to do a lot of things. They're just lucky as an organization that they have the best sport in the world.
Yeah, I mean they have that, but they don't really know how to do television. They don't. They think they do. They're always arrogant about it. They think between that and the NHL awards, like they do all this corny television that's just really awful.
But like, okay, like I did my homework, right? So after the first 3 guys, which after Kittle, okay, he's small, you good offense. And you have Zani, I like that kid, lanky. He can play 2 positions. I like that kid. I think he's gonna be tough. So Horcroft's okay. He's a big center. Okay. But then you got Kittle's 6'4" D. The Charlie guy 6'2" D. But The goalie's the biggest guy. He's 6'4". He can't stop a beach ball, apparently, with his goals against, though, right? Whatever. He'll fit right in. Maybe they probably got him so Chiodo will look good. Hey, you got his save percentage up to 800. Wow, you're doing your job. Next D 6'3", but then the forwards 5'11". Then the next forward 6. It's like every forward is the smallest guys we can find.
Well, at least they made progress with the defense, I guess. Did I see? This could be wrong. It sounds insane, but I thought I heard that there wasn't one defenseman drafted in the entire draft under 6 foot tall. I think I heard some wild stat
That's
like that.
Probably right.
Like every guy drafted, I call this the Florida Panthers effect. Like everybody drafted now is like, get your 6'5" North American kids. Look at how Florida plays. You want to play like them. The Penguins got bigger on the blue line in the system, no question. Yet forward, I guess they really didn't, except for the later 2 first-round picks are both fairly big kids. I don't know. It's so hard to analyze drafts because it's not like football in the United States where pretty much all of us every Saturday are watching Alabama or Penn State or Pitt so we know pretty much who we're going to know who Arch Manning is before the draft next year and what he does well. Whereas hockey, like, let's be honest, junior hockey and college hockey is not on TV very much here. We don't really see that much of it. So a lot of these kids are kind of a mystery, and we have to go with, what the scouts say. I've talked with a lot of, quote unquote draft experts. They're kind of all over the board. Like there's some of them that love what the Penguins did, and they swear by Wes Clark and said, just trust him. He knows what he's doing. There are others who said, one of the people that works with me at the Athletic, Scott Wheeler, said, I think Dubas kind of outsmarted himself a couple of times and probably didn't need to do what he did. I don't know. And none of us will really know for years. That's the way it is. 13 draft picks, that's a lot of people. I will say they did a good job in collecting a lot of picks. I'm sure there will be some NHL players out of that lot, probably some good ones. Unfortunately for the Penguins, it's, even for their first pick, it's going to be a year, 2 probably before we see him in Pittsburgh.
Well, that's for somebody that has, let's say, job. I mean, no one has more job security than when Mario owned the team than Mario himself, right? Than Dubas has. For someone who has all that job security, he plays it safe.
He does play it safe. He doesn't really take any risks. Like, here's the weird thing: is the risk he takes is taking, somebody projected outside the top 20 at 11 after he's traded down in the other pick. You know what I mean? Like even like the risk is a relatively safe risk. I can't complain though, Joe. Like I don't want to, because I'm kind of on your side where I'm like, I don't know how I felt about this, but. Josh, you mentioned asset management, and not because Kyle wears glasses, but he's looking at like almost like a New York Stock Exchange portfolio. Here I got 3 solid assets. I mean, we only had 3 first-round picks in the last 8 years, or something like that. Like, I mean, so we have 3 first-round. We have more first-round picks on Friday than we did in 8 years. So. I don't know. I mean, you never know. And it, to me, it's changing. It's going to change. We're going to start to see a difference whenever all these guys go the OHL and then college for a year, because their production is going to go down when they're playing against grown men. And it just goes to show you how big that jump is from the OHL or wherever they're playing to the NHL playing against grown men.
But we had a chance to make a statement. We had a chance to get some zest, some pizzazz. He could have done something, and he just did nothing. I mean, he had 13 picks. He has a bunch of guys he's trying to get rid of. He didn't do anything. Well, and you know what? You got 13 picks. How about getting the Mooney kid? What's the difference?
Oh man!
All these guys all these guys you couldn't find that you wouldn't know them if they found this guy and hit you in the head. And all these guys. From the second round on, what would be the difference? If he's going to take a small kid, why not take him?
I had my fingers crossed for him for West Mifflin's own. Went, of course, in the 4th round to the Canadiens and LJ Mooney, which makes a lot of sense. St. Louis, their coach, Cole Caulfield. They have a history of undersized players doing really well there. So I wasn't shocked to see the Habs take him. And the Penguins had 3 third-round picks. Oh, man, what an opportunity that they over the years they'd never ever take the local kids ever. And I get it, you got to pick whoever you think the best player is, but it would be nice. And the Penguins could use some good PR right now, Joe.
Exactly. What? I mean,
yeah, I mean, let's be honest, but there were a lot of empty seats this year. We're not used to seeing that in this building, and nothing that happened in the last week is going to make people buy any more tickets next season. That's for sure. And that's a concern. That's a problem. Maybe if it is indeed Gino's last season, maybe, the Gino farewell tour will help sell some tickets, I would imagine. But no, they need something good. They need a lightning bolt of good news for this fan base. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Like I said a couple of times last week, there's like 5 things he could do to just change the course of history before the weekend. And he didn't do any of it. Well, at least give us a local home kid that can skate around, that can skate fast. It would be fun if he's in Wilkes-Barre. It'd be fun. Oh, he's going to come up. Oh, maybe he had a big weekend. He had 3 goals. Oh, you can play on Sid's line for a weekend. What the hell is the difference if you're going to be in last place, Dubas?
This reminds me so much of the pre-Sid era, because there was not, Mario was playing, but there was not a lot of fanfare about that. Like that 03 team. I mean, you mentioned the Kelly Bookberger days. Like, it got pretty rough. And we need that lightning bolt again. If anyone who was not on the Gavin McKenna train isn't on it now, we'll give you some room. You better start hoping, because everybody's like, oh, we don't want them to tank next year. And Josh, you kind of alluded to it in your articles about the article specifically that you wrote about Sid, this being the toughest year yet. I don't know. Do you think he signed up for this? I mean, he knows what's going on. I'm sure he's aware of what's going on. But how do you think Sid reacts to this? Because, like you've said in all the other articles too, they're the only team not trying to get better. And then, I suggest you read it if you haven't. But Josh talks at length about how this is going to be the hardest year for Sid. How do you think he's going to handle it?
I don't think he concerns himself with who they drafted, really. He knows none of those guys are going to help right away, regardless. But I'm sure when the news comes out that, teams are very interested in Brian Rust, I promise you that gets his attention. And I promise you buzz about Ricard Raquel gets his attention. Sid just wants to win. And he's not very patient, I don't think, when it comes to wanting to win. And why would he be? What athlete is? There's no athlete out there that says, we'll go on a 5-year plan. Maybe 5 years from now we'll be ready. Nah, I mean, that's not how they're wired to operate, especially when you're talking about one of the greatest winners in the history of professional sports. This is awful for him. And I know he's frustrated by it. He just wants things to get better immediately. And I'm sure it bothers him that, his buddy down in Washington all of a sudden finds himself on a great team again. Now, the Capitals have some advantages that the Penguins don't, with a lot of LTIR money. And frankly, they've drafted a lot better than the Penguins the last 5 years and have had a lot more draft picks. So that is all part of it. But no, I mean, this is not going to be fun for him, Joe.
Josh, it's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
Dubas could have turned around and made the Penguins a lot better 2 years ago, but he didn't.
Well, he tried. I mean,
I don't think trading Jake is trying to.
I'm talking about before that. I mean, he got Graves, which is a bad move, but it's not like he didn't spend money. I mean, he got Karlsson, and I just think he determined halfway through the season this team sucks, and I got to blow it up. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I think that's what Kyle believes, and I think at first when he took the job, I think he made all those moves for Sid. I really do, to make Sid happy. And I doubt he's making Sid very happy right now.
He's not making anybody happy right now. Who's happy? Letang? When I saw Letang, I thought Letang announced he was traded.
No, I understand.
That's the one guy all the guys we don't need are still here. And all the guys that we need are on the trading block. Like I said for 3 years, as soon as you get rid of Rust, you're looking for a guy like Rust. As soon as you get rid of Raquel, you're looking for Raquel. As soon as you do it.
I don't think that Rust and Raquel are gonna be here when they're good again.
I might not be here when they're good again, Corey.
None of us might be.
Oh, certainly not both of them, Corey.
No.
One of them's going to get traded. And by the way, I don't. A lot of people have asked me about Russ and Raquel. Listen, anybody can get traded at any time, as we know. If Minkah Fitzpatrick can get randomly traded on a Monday morning, like, yeah, it can happen. We'll get to that later. My sense is, especially with Rust, I don't think he's going to get traded this summer. It's always possible. My best guess is come trade deadline, assuming Rust has another good season and assuming the Penguins stink and they're in sell mode at the trade deadline. If that's the case, you could generate one hell of a bidding war for his services at the trade deadline from contenders. I would have to think. What contender wouldn't want that guy on their team? I think it would probably make more sense if Dubas wants to trade him to wait until then to do it. I don't think the value for him would be as high right now as it would be, 7 months from now or whatever before the trade deadline. So I would say the same thing for Raquel. Both of them, or one of them, could be traded this summer. I kind of don't know that they will be. I think Karlsson's more likely to go this summer. I could see both of those guys back to start the season, but I don't know that they'll finish it.
I know Russ is my guy. I'm not even as concerned about trading Raquel. I'm more concerned about we don't have 6 qualified NHL defensemen. We don't have a third. We barely have a second line now. We don't have a third line. We don't have a fourth line. Columbus got better. The Flyers are getting better. This could be a terror. This is the Buchberger thing when I think we won 9 games.
Penguins are the worst team in the division right now on paper.
It's not even close.
The Islanders are pretty bad right now, but
I like what the Islanders are doing. I don't know why they traded Dobson, but
those guys aren't going to help them this year. Maybe Schaefer will, but he's still an 18-year-old defenseman. They could be pretty bad this year. But on paper, the Penguins are probably the worst team in the division, especially when you consider the Islanders actually have a goalie and the Penguins really don't.
I would say,
and a somewhat proven head coach.
Yeah,
true.
I think we're in the phase right now, Joe, where we're taking our medicine. We're like halfway through the dose. This had to happen. We traded away the future for the present for years and years and years. And yes, Hextall came in and absolutely made the situation worse and set us back a handful of years. But that's what we're in the middle of right now. And so I don't know. The more I look at it, the more when I sat back and settled in and looked at the first round and I thought, okay, 3 of the top 24 players in the draft are now Penguins. Somebody's gotta pan out here, and this isn't the draft that's gonna fix. I know we're talking about doing PR, but I don't know. If you're chasing if you're trying to win the PR game, you're not gonna win the game on the ice. Think about how often the Cleveland Browns have won the draft, and the Cleveland Browns win free agency. They never win on the field. I don't know.
I can't speak to that, but I've calmed down, and hey, that's why my ex-wife was always never said anything about the Penguins to me as far as me watching them all the time, or it's the Penguins, because she sat through with me the Buchberg era, so yeah. She never says because I had TiVo and I had to sound like this, so she knows, or she didn't, whatever. I'm a fan. I'm going to be a fan, but those 13 picks. Whatever you want to say, and the cap going up for dead money, you could have erased Letang and you could have erased Karlsson. And that we all know is the biggest impediment to even a competitive hockey team. And that's what he could have done.
I think it all goes back to the reality that the Penguins don't think they're going to be good this year, and they're not trying very hard to be good this year, because if they were, I think they'd be trying to get rid of that dead money. My sense is, as long as they stink, they don't really care if there's dead money. Now, when they think they have a chance to be good, that's when they don't want the dead money on the books. I think everything changed. I really think for Penguins fans, I think you need to get through one more season that's going to be miserable, because I really think next summer, Joe, they're going to have like $50 million in cap space next summer. You're going to have a lot of bad contracts off the books. A lot of these young guys will be making their way to the NHL at that point. I think there is hope coming. I'm telling you, this year, I could really see them, even with Sidney Crosby, I could see them being a bottom 5 team in the NHL. I think that's just the path they're headed on.
It absolutely is the path they're headed on. But do we have to see 3-on-1s coming back at us for 82 games?
Well, given the current blue line, I'd get used to that.
That's what I'm saying. It's the Ralph Kiner effect. Hey, I can be in last place. I can be in last place without you. Like I just wanted to see those guys gone.
The only way Letang is gone is if he retires or if they buy him out. That's the only two ways it's going to happen.
That's what I was saying.
You could do it. I know Dubas hates buying people out. It's always a last resort for him. He doesn't like to use it as a weapon.
If you're really looking for the future, though, Josh, you're going to put Pickering and you're going to put Branicki out there, and you're not going to have Letang out there.
No, I know. Karlsson's the one, though. I think there's a really good chance he gets traded, like better than 50-50 that he's traded this summer. I do think there are teams that are interested in him. And the Penguins might have to eat a little bit of money, but I think what they're going to tell teams is, we'll eat some of the money. We'll eat a couple million, whatever, but you're going to give us something legitimate back in return.
Here's my kind of my insanity, right? Or it's like, okay, that Matthias Michelli in Utah, he goes to Toronto. He's a young kid. He's an NHL player. Those are the types of guys we got to get.
I don't disagree with that, although he also didn't have a very good year last year. I don't know that he would make that big of a difference either. I know what you're saying.
He's more than Emil Benstrom.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying you. I mean, I watch a lot of games, and that guy jumped 2 years ago. He jumped out. He's on a diner. Dubas loves to buy low, take a chance. That's a guy to do it with. Besides, he's Italian, just an extra bonus.
There it is.
It's just not looking real rosy at the moment. I'm going to go down to the arena tomorrow just to make sure they didn't start tearing down the Penguins logos and move another team in, because it's not pretty. But I want to talk a little bit about, what's going to happen here in free agency. We have Erik Karlsson. I want to hear what rumors and what whispers Josh is hearing. And then we'll get into a little bit of that stuff. But first, Mr. Bill Neofis, I'm curious to hear how he feels about, this new draft, this draft class. Did he like what Dubas did? Because we know he's Mr. Bill Neofis of Neofis Insurance has a lot of opinions when it comes to hockey.
Yeah, he actually didn't have a problem with the draft at all, I don't think. He's more distracted by what's going on with the Steelers in the last 5 hours. A lot of people want to talk about that. I received a text earlier from him that indicated that he didn't know what to make of it all, we will say. But he didn't have a problem with the draft. And then listen, we take our sponsor seriously. So he's a big Rax and Rusty guy too, though. So he doesn't, I don't think he's too quick to want to see those two go. So he and Joe are very much in line. Nobody wants to see Brian Russ go, for God's sake. I mean, that's, as our friend Mark Madden says, he is an OG Penguin. He very much is. And then there's only so many of those guys left. You don't want to lose them all, that's for sure. But speaking of people who've been around for quite some time, the Neofis Insurance Group has been in Pittsburgh since 1960, the year Maz beat the Yankees. They've been around that long, and they've been in business for all these years for a very good reason. They're the best, 65 years and counting. They have been an insurance group in Pittsburgh. Told us recently about pet insurance. If you have pets, get insurance. It's actually a great deal. Something that I only until recently had I even thought about. Like, gee, that makes a lot of sense. Most of my money goes toward my pets. Like, yeah, why wouldn't I want pet insurance? So pet insurance, home insurance, car insurance, life insurance, you name it, whatever insurance you can think of. the Neofus Insurance Group is going to help you out. And honestly, they will do it with a smile. They'll make you feel comfortable. They'll get you great deals. They are so wonderful to deal with. So give our friends a call, 412-364-3388. They're available from 8:30 until 6 most days. I think 8:30 until 5 on Friday. So give our friends Bill and everyone else at Neofus Insurance Group a buzz. They will make your life better.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. And so to get back to what I was alluding to, Erik Karlsson is due a 5. I would trade places with him for the next 7 or 8 hours because he's due a $5 million bonus here at midnight. So I could go for that. But outside of that, I don't know if I'd want to be Erik Karlsson because I don't know where he's going.
You think with that $5 million bonus kicks in, he's like looking at his checking account, like just reloading every second until it like pops in.
I don't think he is, but I 100% would be. He might be doing it from like a blackjack table or something like that, just to see if he
Vegas perhaps
can pull it out. Maybe Vegas is looking for a one Erik Karlsson. So have you heard any whispers? I mean, to me and Josh, you've been the one that where Joe and I get a lot of our information. So, and read your articles on The Athletic. It to me seems that it's not going to be till after the $5 million bonus that he's really available. Are there whispers? Enough people have expressed interest. What's the where do you put the likelihood of Erik Karlsson being a Penguin by the end of July?
Let's just call it by the end of summer because I'll lump August in with the rest of July. I think it's better than 50-50 that he gets dealt. I don't think it's a sure thing, but from what I've heard, there is legitimate interest in him. And part of it, that bonus, his cap hit's still $10 million. The Penguins can take on some of that if they want, but he's actually only owed, I think, $4 or $5 million each of the next 2 years. So owners are going to like that. It's just less actual money, even though it's still cap. I think there are teams interested. And I really think, as we've said before, it all goes back to how he looked at the Four Nations when he looked great. And people saw that like, oh, this guy can still play. Don't know what's going on with him in Pittsburgh, but he can still play. People saw that. Now the salary cap is skyrocketing. So I don't think his cap figure is all that offensive to teams. For me, Joe, listen, he's a Hall of Famer. I respect the guy. I like him on a personal level. If I'm a great team, if I'm a Vegas or a whatever contender you think of, I wouldn't want him. I don't trust him for a second in a playoff game with the way I've seen him play. But it only takes one. And from what I hear, I don't have a specific team for you. Vegas is interesting because it sounds like Alex Pietrangelo is out, maybe career-threatening type injury, but certainly out for the season. That's a right-handed defenseman. That's a hole for them. I don't know. That's one possibility, but I haven't heard any specific teams. But I have heard that there's more interest than you might think for him, and I'd be kind of surprised if he's with the Penguins come October.
I don't think that Karlsson was as horrible as some people think he was. Now, he didn't play great, but he definitely showed flashes in the offensive zone as a Penguin.
Sure.
And if you get an actual defensive pair guy for him, a stay-home guy that's a real top defenseman, I think he can add quality to your team, and he definitely can score for you and add to the rush. And also, if you have a goaltender that can actually make a save, if the Penguins retain $2-3 million, he's definitely worth $7 million to somebody.
He can still do some things. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Forwards love playing with him. It's the one thing he can do is get forwards the puck like almost nobody else in the league. That is absolutely fact.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you bring that up, Joe, because if you put him on a more structured team and give him a good defense partner, whoever that may be, give him like a 2017 version of Brian Dumoulin, somebody like that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's always who we go back to, but that classic stereotypical steady partner, maybe he's okay. You put him beside Matt Grzelcyk, and it's goddamn fireworks every night because Matt Grzelcyk's terrible. There's not much there. I don't know. It's so hard for me to gauge Karlsson because the Penguins were frankly such of a mess the last 2 years. And I don't know how much of that was because of him or where the blame lies. I know he's frustrating to coach. He was really bad in the first month last season. He didn't have a training camp either. He was better the rest of the season. I still, boy, if I know there are coaches and GMs around the league that wouldn't touch him. He just drives them nuts. But there are also some who absolutely would. It only takes one. He's such of a dazzling talent that I think any coach or GM or talent evaluator will look at him and say, I can straighten him out. I can get him to buy into some good habits, and we can take advantage of that genius of his on the ice. We'll see, but I have a feeling he gets traded.
And he played way too much for the Penguins.
Yes.
You don't have him out against somebody's first pair. I mean against somebody's first line. He's out against people's third and fourth lines when he can take advantage of a slow fourth line or just a lackadaisical third or a bad change. He has to pop in when he can. He just can't be exposed to the Florida forecheck or Toronto's top line. Just
right.
Teams that can send away. Like he's not going to get. He's not going to get away from. He's not going to play consistent hockey. And I'm sorry, George, because he needs to be against guys that if he makes a bad pinch, it's like, oh, it's 2-on-1, it's Kachuk Barkov, or it's 2-on-1, it's Nyes and Matthews. It has to be, oh, it's a 2-on-1, and it's two guys you never heard of.
My single biggest problem with Karlsson, and he's never been that great on it, but he was really disappointed on the power play. Like I thought he'd be better on the power play than he was. That's the one thing. But really, if you look at his history, he's never been quite the power play quarterback people think he is. His genius has always been his ability to put up even strength points, which for a defenseman is not easy. And he still brings that to the table. I think if you put him with the right coach on the right team, yeah, it might be worth the gamble. I'm curious. Like, I know the Penguins could trade him if they eat some salary. The question I have is, could you get something really worthwhile in return? And I don't know. But it's interesting is if you do trade him, even though he's a very polarizing player, who the hell takes those minutes on the right side? Like there's nobody. I don't know if they want Brunick on the team at age 19 if they think he's going to be ready. Do you want Letang playing more minutes at this stage? I don't think so. And I don't think they do either. So you don't want to spend much money in free agency. He's going to spend some money on the blue line. He's going to bring in a defenseman or two, I'm sure. But if you trade Karlsson, man, it is just a gaping hole on the right side.
Yeah, it's.
But let's look to the future. It's like we know what Karlsson is. We know.
Yeah.
Even if somebody, I don't want to throw Bernicki in the deep ocean with the Sharks, but let's get anybody else, to quote the great Mark Van, anybody else to fill those minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, I don't know. I don't think they want anyone else unless there's a good deal that comes from Karlsson or for Karlsson, because Josh, to me, kind of like you said about, the dead money, they'd rather just have that dead money on their books this year than extending it out into, 2026, 27 when they could be good again. So where they just, unless they get a really fantastic, or they just like, rip, this is what it is. Erik Karlsson's on our team. He might land up.
That's what gets me about Dubas. That's what gets me about Dubas, because here's a guy, right? Who this guy was on waivers last year. Dante Fabro. You can't tell me you couldn't look at Fabro and go, well, he's one of them. He's one of the, if he was on the Penguins, he'd be one of their 6 best defensemen. It's a no-brainer. Columbus signs him today. 4 years, $4.125. It's like,
maybe
what were we doing? We're hanging around doing nothing.
Nobody wants to come out and say this, and I'm generally not in favor of this, or usually I don't even think this is the case. Maybe they are in tank mode a little bit this season.
That's just what I was going to say. It feels like
and that's dangerous. I mean, you can want Gavin McKenna all you want. You still only have a 25% chance to get him, even if you finish with the worst record in the league. So I don't really recommend tanking. And I don't think it's like a full-fledged EJ tank that's about to take place.
What are you talking about? EJ just didn't have enough good players.
Yeah, right. Well, that's true too. But I don't know. It just doesn't. There's no urgency to win this season, but I mean, next summer is what fascinates me. I know we're still a year away, because next summer, if he wants, he can go buy a playoff team next summer. He absolutely is going to have the money to do it.
Yeah.
But you certainly feel like he's playing the long game here and wants these prospects to kind of all show up, in waves or whatever, and that's great in theory. You better draft the right ones if that's what you want to do, though.
Yeah, and you play the long game, and then the Rangers just go out and get 3 free agents this summer you expect to be good. And then where's the long game get you? Get some superstars, Dubas.
Then before you know it, Sid's 40, and that's here's the thing. The Penguins, I think Dubas and Wes Clark know how to draft in general. They got a bunch of defensemen. They got a bunch of guys who look like good bottom 6 or middle 6 prospects. Where's the star power going to come from? That's the problem. That's the problem for the Penguins moving forward. There's no simple solution. And guess what? Star power doesn't show up on July 1st very often.
I'll tell you what, star power doesn't sign to its state that has taxes and it's cloudy 9 months out of the year. Yeah. And, it's Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh. I love it. It's my home, but it's not Florida.
Did you guys see
it's not California.
Did you see the Aaron Ekblad deal, by the way?
Oh, no. It just went through?
8 years, only $6.1 million.
To stay in Florida?
That's pretty good business from Mr. Zito to get Ekblad for $6 a year.
If I'm Ekblad, I don't know why I wouldn't take that. I mean, I know you could get more money, but
you could get more in the open market, but you make more in Florida, and you're living in Florida for the next 8 years. So
Bennett signed 8 times 8.
He would have got $10 million on the open market. I'm telling you,
easily.
So, yes.
How about
I just want to play there?
You know what we always say though? We always talk about. I wish I should be that guy's agent. Matthew Nyes signing for 6 years for $7.75 is a joke.
What did you think he was going to get, Joe?
In Toronto, I would have said you're giving me 9.5 and then we start talking.
And even bringing Tavares back, I know he's aging, but for $4 million a year,
yeah.
That's great for Tavares. He still scored 30+ goals last year. I mean, for a second line center,
for a guy who used
like that, $4 million.
Well, the thing with Tavares is they need him to play in the third line if they're going to beat anybody. So he's being paid like a third line center.
True,
that's true.
But I just can't believe that he signed for under $8 million a year in Toronto. Which, oh my God, Toronto, you get taxed. It's communism. That's all you ever hear. And that guy took a hometown discount to play in Toronto.
To get back to the Penguins for a second, though, it just kind of is formed, like this opinion has been like kind of forming in my head and like fermenting, reading all of Josh's articles, listening to all the hockey content, us talking every week. And I'm like, you know what? What benefit does it do the Penguins to be good this year? I know, like, Joe, I'm the same way as you. When we didn't win a first round playoff series for like 4 years in the 90s, I thought we won the Stanley Cup whenever we beat the Devils in 99. So, making the playoffs is always better. But this year in particular, it doesn't do us any good to go out and sign any big free agents. Like I'm looking at, I have my list of people to ask you about. It's like Jack McBain. It's like, does that do anything for us? Does that make us a contender? Does it make us...
You know what, Jack McBain's a young kid. He plays center. He'll fight anybody, and he fills out the roster. It's so we don't get pushed around. I mean, at some point you still have to put out. I mean, Corey, you're a Pirates guy. They don't put out a Major League Baseball team.
No.
At some point you have to put a professional hockey team on the ice if you want sponsors, if you want ratings, if you want 15,000 plus people. No one's going to watch the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins except like me and you. I mean, at some point you have to be. He doesn't have to break the bank. He doesn't have to spend the cap, but you need to get professional hockey players, guys that can actually play. That's what I mean about Michelli. Yeah, he's not Pavel Bure, but you know what he can do? He can score 15, 20 goals, a lot better than the guys we had on the team last year.
Yeah. And you bring up a very interesting point talking about the sponsors and talked about attendance. Like this is probably Gino's last year. He's gone. What if Sid walks away the year after? He might. There's no guarantee he's going to come back. after his contract expires. He'll be almost 40. He might be done then. Then what do you do if you're the Penguins? That's the real big question. This isn't just a sports town that expects a winner. This is a hockey town that expects to be entertained, that is used to watching Lemieux or Yager or Crosby or Malkin. When all that star power goes away, that's a huge problem for the Penguins financially in terms of selling tickets, sponsorships, all of the above. And I keep saying, if you're Dubas, where does the star power come from? Or where are you going to find it in the next 5 years? Because July 1st, there's not that many stars that are available on July 1st. I'm not saying it never happens, but teams usually keep their own. So do you get top 5 draft picks? Do you pull off a blockbuster of a trade? Do you get lucky in the draft? Do you get lucky in the draft lottery? There's a lot of ways to do it. He better figure it out, because without that, they're not going to have much.
With the first pick in the 2026 draft, the Pittsburgh Penguins select Gavin McKenna. That is how you get.
Who might be playing at Penn State next year, by the way.
Yeah, that's between Penn State and Michigan State.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the NHL is rigged or any sport is rigged.
The NBA is rigged. I'll say it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. There's some. The Patriots were pushing the limits. But let's go with, let's say Sidney Crosby is thinking about leaving. Would it be if the NHL was ever going to fix something, it would be to fix the draft for the Penguins to get Gavin McKenna, because you get Sidney Crosby probably for 2 more years. Because if Sidney Crosby sees that lottery ball bounce the right way, he goes, "Oh, Gavin McKenna? Yeah, I can play with that kid for a couple years."
No, it would be a big deal. I mean, of course it would.
I'm not suggesting, Gary Bettman, that anyone rig it for the Penguins, because that would be terrible. But
if you know your Penguins history, you know there's a chance it happens.
And it would be great to see all the Philadelphia fans continue to complain, because I loved it walking around Phillies Arena, whatever it's called now, whenever we had Crosby. All you did was suck and then got all these great players. I was like, yep, we did. And now we're better than you. So deal with it. Okay, so we got to get a couple other things we have to get into that aren't Penguins related. Did we leave anything off the table when it came to free agency? I mean, because there's no big free agent that we're going for.
No, I mean, there will be a couple of signings tomorrow, I would guess, but nothing that's going to get people too excited. I wouldn't imagine.
So for Pittsburgh fans, you know that sadly the Cobra passed away. The Pirates' great outfielder, Dave Parker, passed away. And like we were texting in our thread, thank God he got the news that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame beforehand, because it was long overdue. So he knew before he passed away. And for people that don't know Dave Parker, I asked my dad, who was like 22 whenever the Pirates won that World Series in '79. He was just as good as a Clemente. Like, I would say almost like a Malkin to Crosby. Not that they played at the same time, but he was that good. He was an MVP. Watch that throw he made. I think it was in an All-Star game. That laser beam that he threw from right field.
I saw Dave Parker play. I remember. I grew up in the 70s. I remember the lumber company. Dave Parker. When baseball mattered, not just to me, not just to Pittsburgh, to America. The NFL was even at that point with baseball. Dave Parker was the best player in baseball for about 2 years. He came after Clemente and filled his shoes. Dave Parker was an incredible baseball player. Thank God that he made it to the Hall of Fame. It was a crime he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. He was a 5'2" athlete. He was 6'5", like 230, could run. He stole like 200 and some bases. He batted third and then started. It was the lumber company. I absolutely love Dave Parker. He was an incredible baseball player. He really the last great Pittsburgh Pirate. Because believe me, I was friends with all the Pirates of the 90s. I worked for them. They weren't Dave. Basically, very few people since 1980 have been Dave Parker.
Yeah, and as big as Dave Parker's talent was, I think his personality was just as big. He had a brashness about him. There was just something entertaining, something compelling about him. And yet when you hear his former teammates talk about him, when you hear like reporters that dealt with him that I know, they all loved him. They said, this guy, like, he was just unapologetically himself. And he was a competitor, and he was a very proud Pittsburgh Pirate. Nobody's proud to be a Pittsburgh Pirate anymore, and for good reason. But back then, and like that's before my time, it's before Corey's time, and Joe was a little kid when they were great in the 70s. And the Pirates were not only great, but they were cool. Like everybody liked the Pirates then. The lumber company they had the personalities, they had the talent, they had the entertainment value. And Dave Parker is probably one of the most underrated players ever. You talk about pure talent for the sport. Not many had it more than that guy. And it's a shame that he'll never get to give that speech in Cooperstown. But I do think, unlike Pete Rose, who I think should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago as well, at least Dave Parker died knowing that he was going to be enshrined. I think there's something good.
And it is a complete black mark on the city of Pittsburgh and city of Pittsburgh sports fans in general, the way they treated Dave Parker on when he was in town at the end, because he was the first baseball player to get $1 million. And right. I imagine the Pirates actually having the highest paid player in baseball. I know you kids out there, you can't even imagine it, but they were a real Major League Baseball team in the 70s. And he made $1 million. And let's just say race relations weren't the way they are now. And a lot of people, a lot of regular working class folks in this town did not want him or appreciate him or held it against him the money he made. But all he ever did was hustle. Unlike 99% of the other Pirates right now, he played his ass off. And I remember in I think 82 or 83, he batted fifth. He was coming off an injury. He played incredible baseball. And still he was he wasn't wanted. People, the cocaine issues and the money he was making. And it really was, I felt bad for him as a little kid, as a 10-year-old. Why are they treating Dave Parker like that? He's busting his ass and he's batting 300, 325 and he's killing it. It was people don't remember that now, but you look back, he was treated unfairly.
He dealt with a lot of bullshit in his time, just as Clemente did with reporters who would quote him, when he would try to have this and that, and they put dis and dat with a D, and when they were quoting him, but stuff like that. It was just racism, was all it was. And when I said, Parker was unapologetically himself, I think he was unapologetically black at a time when Pittsburgh, unfortunately, had a problem with that. And it made him an easy target when he did get himself into some legal problems. But I'm telling you, I've never met a person who knew him, had a bad word to say about him. Everybody loved Dave Parker. Everybody. And you go back and watch, it was the 1978 All-Star game, Corey, you were talking about in Seattle. Those two throws he made, he was a phenom. He literally was a five-tool guy. And unfortunately, I don't think the baseball world appreciated him enough when he was around. But just very, very sad to hear that news. But Pittsburgh can be proud that the Cobra was a Pirate, and he was a very proud Pirate.
There should be a statue of the Cobra. It'll be the last one you need to build in Pittsburgh, next to that stadium. I'll tell you that. But one of my favorite Parker memories, though, was when he was in Oakland A's. He was a proud member of the Oakland A's, the Bash brothers. He was right there. I think he batted fifth after McGuire. And Kelly Gruber was this little punk third baseman for Toronto. And he was talking smack in the papers. Well, Parker hit one. It went through the roof of the Sky Dome. And Parker used to dog around the bases. And I remember he just stopped and pointed at Gruber that's just yeah. And that's the Cobra. You don't mess with the Cobra.
No. And he's also the center portrait of maybe the greatest baseball picture ever taken when he's smoking the heater in the dugout. That very famous picture.
That's the one I posted.
It's the best.
R.I.P. the Cobra. I never got to watch him, but I will recommend if anyone's a baseball fan and a starving Pirates fan like myself. I got to experience all those guys through books. If you get one good sports books, Josh Yowie wrote one with Phil Bourque, If These Walls Could Talk. I mean, required reading for Penguins fans. But growing up, yeah, that was how I got to know the old Pirates. Clemente, Dave Parker, Manny Sanguillen. There's a couple biographies that were floating around in my public library that I picked up and read, and then read again and again. And that's probably the only stuff I read is sports stuff. So that goes to show you why I talk about sports and nothing else. So RIP Dave Parker. Before we do close up here, guys, the surprising news was for the Steelers that Minkah Fitzpatrick was traded to the Miami Dolphins for Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. And I, for one, am stunned that anyone has a problem with this, but I've seen people saying, oh my God, I can't believe we gave up Minkah Fitzpatrick. Where for 2.5 years, I was like, does Minkah Fitzpatrick even play for the Steelers anymore? I don't hear his name called. Apparently he takes away the deep ball. But I posted the meme. Have you ever seen that beautifully drawn horse that then transitions into the like kindergarten drawing of a horse? And it was like, this is Minkah when he started, and this is Minkah when he finished. Like 2019, Minkah, I was like, oh my God, we got Troy Polamalu 2.0. Now, I don't think we're going to miss him, and I don't think the locker room will either.
I mean, I would suggest Jalen Ramsey's past his prime too, probably. But I think when you consider you also got a guy who might really help the offense in Jonnu Smith, like they've got two legitimate receiving weapons at tight end now with he and Freiermuth, which is you had to get Rodgers another weapon. If you're only going to have one stud receiver, well, now you have two pretty good tight ends, so it's a little unorthodox. But it's something. I kind of feel like there's three good players in this trade, and the Steelers got two of them. Ramsey, I don't know what he has left. I know he's a really talented guy. And you have to have talented corners when you're in this division against Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. I don't know what position he's going to play. There's some talk he might play safety or might play slot corner. I don't know. I'll say this, guys. The Steelers are not having boring off seasons these days. The last couple of off seasons, my God, are they getting our attention? This isn't your granddaddy Steelers anymore with the way they build their team.
I wish Omar Khan could send some testosterone over to PPG Center Place. Make some moves. He's not shy. Yeah, I was a big Minkah guy. I loved Minkah. He's a Bama kid, and he was great for the first couple years. He literally disappeared. He was on a milk carton the last couple years. So, okay, he's gone now. Jalen Ramsey. I've heard the name before. I know he's good at some point. The other guy, I like that big 9-foot tight end. So now that guy's gonna be the third tight end.
Washington.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do some 3 tight end sets because they.
Oh my God, Corey! I don't want more tight ends on the field.
Well, no. So they look at Jonnu Smith as a slot receiver / tight end.
He's more of a receiver than anything. Yes.
Yeah. They look at what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name? Darnell Washington. Is like a tight end / offensive line. Like he's an offensive lineman that can catch the ball and run a little bit.
Well, so Arthur Smith likes his tight ends, so he's got a bunch of them now.
So I think I like it. And the thing that's interesting to me is that the Steelers wanted Jonnu Smith, and I was like, oh man, Jonnu Smith, like I really like that. What are we gonna have to give up for him? Then we got Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. And I forget again, I never quote anybody properly off of Twitter. It might have been Matt Williamson, who I really trust with his Steelers coverage. But he could have been Kabali, who also I trust. That's the other person to go to with Steelers. But somebody said it's a lot easier to play safety and play deep safety and take away the deep ball than it is to play cornerback on the level that Jalen Ramsey can. So, Joe, that's why we never heard of. They kept telling us, oh, Minkah's doing a great job taking away the home run ball. And well, I don't know, Joe, like maybe me and you could stand back at the goal line and make sure nobody throws deep.
Well, Minkah in his prime was Troy Polamalu light.
Yeah.
He was made turnovers and made plays at the line of scrimmage and led the team in tackles. He just wasn't that guy anymore. So I don't know. Did him and Tomlin have a run in or something? I don't know.
There was some talk last season that basically Fitzpatrick didn't agree with the coaches and the way they were doing things schematically, and he was kind of doing his own thing and freelancing a little too much late in the season, and that was some of the problem, I think, with the defensive struggles in the last few weeks. I don't know what's true and what isn't. I don't cover the Steelers, but I know there were some whispers that he was, I don't know if malcontent is the right word, but he and the coaching staff were not on the same page. I think we know that much.
Well, what I mean, I know maybe he should, maybe they should readjust their thinking then, because the defense was terrible. Maybe Minka knew what he was talking about.
Maybe.
Compared
and he's
to
a guy who, he's highly regarded. Like, he's a guy who does his homework and really smart, high IQ football guy.
Oh, I'm very good friends with a couple of Miami Dolphin fans and guys who work in the NHL, NFL, and they couldn't believe they got rid of Minka the first time. Yeah, I'll take anybody coached by Nick Saban over what the Steelers are doing defensively. I'll tell you that. But two guys for one guy, sure.
It was, boy, that was jarring news today, though. I mean, nobody was expecting
Monday morning. But right though, fellas, two guys versus one guy. I think we won the trade. I just know that I know this. In about 10 days after all the free agency frenzy goes away, we'll just be looking to camp. That's all we have.
We are very close to the worst part of the sports calendar. It being about July 5th through September 1st. It's a rough time. It really is.
Yeah, and I'm really appreciate the PGA Tour doing us a favor and moving the PGA Championship out of August and putting it in May.
Now there's really nothing to watch in August. Yeah.
Like, at least it was always like third week August. The PGA Championship. There we go.
That doesn't strike me as a golf guy anyway, Corey. I don't know.
I don't see Joe sitting back watching.
No, it's no, not at all. Not at all.
I would be like taunting Rory McIlroy, I think, in the crowd or something.
I just want to bring back 3-on-3. Where's EJ's kid or Craig Patrick's kid? Whoever ran that 3-on-3 hockey. Come on.
That is true.
Bring that back.
Yeah, I actually kind of enjoyed that. It was something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I did want to ask you guys your thoughts on what Elliot Friedman hinted at with the Maple Leafs and the Vegas Golden Knights in the tampering, and that apparently the league is itching to make an example out of somebody. If there's tampering, it's pretty severe, the penalty. What do you guys think? Do you think there's some smoke, some fire to that with that smoke?
Probably is. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think it's one of the only smart moves Tree Living's ever made, other than somehow putting a gun to Matthew Knight's agent's head, took that stupid deal he took. I think just saying there's tampering, everybody tampers, but now you say it's tampering, now you can get a trade chip when you trade him the day before free agency.
That's clearly what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare Vegas into giving them something for him, and everybody knows he's going to Vegas. So I guess it's smart by Toronto, but it's kind of annoying. Everybody tampers, and I don't think it really bothers anyone. Like, you really think like all these deals just magically get done at 12:01 p.m. on July 1st? Like, no, they've been talking for weeks. That's just the way it goes, and I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Like, guess what? They were going to leave anyway. Like, who's getting hurt by it? They all do it. It just seems silly to me. If Toronto pulls it off, good for them, though, because God knows Vegas has had enough things handed to them in the last decades. Maybe they deserve this. I don't know. Yeah,
I took it as, and I trust Elliot Friedman greatly. I think he's, take his word as gospel whenever it comes to what's going on in the league. But I started to wonder to myself, like, well, the NHL offices are in Toronto. I wonder if there's a Maple Leafs fan that works there that was like, hey, Elliot, FYI. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to scare Vegas into a move. I just thought it's like, the money aside, it was something like, I should have had this all written down, but it was like a draft pick, and you don't get the player, and whatever deal was made is nullified. It's kind of a mess. And not that I don't.
Tree Living just can't live down the fact that he just didn't put the screws to Marner, and Marner's not in Carolina right now, and they could have Mikko Rantanen. That's the real problem.
Yeah. Well,
I think you're right.
That's what he should have done. Oh, but no, Tree Living's a great GM. Oh, he's such a great GM. He lost Bennett and Kachuk in Calgary, but he's better than Dubas. We're so happy we got Tree Living. He's so much an upgrade over Dubas. Well, remember, he gave Florida. You're crying about the taxes. You should be crying at Tree Living because he's the guy who gave him Bennett and Kachuk in the first place.
If you're not doing the things that the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing, you're doing all right in the NHL. So right now, the Penguins, I think, are doing all right. I don't see many Maple Leaf level moves. All right, gentlemen. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of Two for Talking. We appreciate all of you for listening, watching, or, tweeting in, commenting, all that. So please keep bringing it on. Email the show, contact@twofortalking.com. Real quick, I'm just throwing it out there. We'll talk about it next week. Bouchard got 10.5 million. But that just came across. But we appreciate you. Big Joe's the one that threw that in. So we see most of the comments, and I appreciate you doing that, and reach out to us. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, I was gonna say. Oh well. Anyway, I didn't see that. But that. Thanks, Big Joe. Another guy said have a 7-up for the Cobra. How about a 7-7 for the Cobra?
Yeah, I think he'd be okay with that.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. I was gonna say something that came up in my head. Oh yes. Fans, look out! Listeners, we love you. If something major happens, we will do an emergency.
It's always in play.
Yes,
absolutely. So, in other words,
otherwise known as Bartnick's Suicide Watch. That's
actually.
I need my friend. I need you guys to talk me off the ledge.
If Brian
Rusty for a 3rd round pick and some midget from Sault Ste. Marie.
If Brian Rust goes, we have to have a show just to see if Joe's alive, and it'll be me and Josh sitting here waiting eagerly to see that Joe joins.
That's right.
But yeah, we'll see. And when Erik Karlsson does get traded at some point, I assume we will have that as well. So hopefully no Rusty news, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Happy 4th of July. God bless America.
God bless America. See ya.